The bright flash in Earth's orbit caught everyone by surprise. A massive ship, 3 times the size of the largest aircraft carrier, appeared out of nowhere. The world's military forces went on high alert, but the ship made no aggressive moves. Instead, it broadcast a simple message in all Earth languages. "We come in peace." The ship belonged to the Galactic Council, a federation of advanced alien species that govern most of the known galaxy. They had been watching Earth for decades, waiting for the right moment to make contact. That moment, they decided, had arrived. Within hours, world leaders gathered in an emergency United Nations session. The alien ship's main representative, a tall being with silvery skin, materialized directly in the assembly hall. The Earth's delegates gasped, but maintained their composure. This was history in the making. James Miller, a seasoned diplomat known for his calm demeanor, was chosen to lead Earth's response team. He had spent 30 years in international relations, but nothing had prepared him for negotiating with aliens. Still, he straightened his tie and stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth," he said, keeping his voice steady. "We are honored by your presence." The alien's translator converted his words into a series of musical tones. The response came back in perfect English. "We are pleased to find your world ready for elevation to galactic society." But something in the alien's tone bothered Miller. He had dealt with enough powerful nations to recognize condescension when he heard it. The alien spoke like a teacher addressing a child, not like one equal to another. Over the next few days, the Council representatives laid out their plans for Earth. They would provide limited technological assistance, carefully measured to avoid overwhelming humanity. Trade would be strictly controlled. Space travel would be permitted only along approved routes. "These measures are for your own protection," the Council member explained, spreading its 6-fingered hands. "Many young species have destroyed themselves by advancing too quickly." During a private meeting, Miller noticed how the aliens flinched when humans used their computers. "Such primitive devices," one whispered to another, not realizing Miller could hear them. Yet Earth's quantum computers were processing data faster than their own systems. The Council members lived in their ship, refusing to stay in human buildings. They complained about Earth's crude architecture, while marveling at how humans could build anything worthwhile with such basic materials. Miller watched and listened carefully. He saw how they avoided questions about other young species, how they changed the subject when asked about independent trade, how they seemed more interested in Earth's resources than its people. One evening, as Miller sat in his office reviewing the Council's proposed treaties, his secure phone buzzed. It was Admiral Reed from Military Intelligence. "Jim, you need to see this," Reed said. "We've intercepted some of their private communications. It's not good." Miller's face darkened as he read the decoded messages. The Council wasn't there to help Earth. Their real plans were much more sinister. Every protective measure they proposed would make Earth dependent on Council technology. Every trade restriction would funnel Earth's resources to Council worlds. "They think we're primitives," Miller muttered. "They have no idea what we're capable of." He looked out his window at the alien ship glowing in the night sky. Humanity had faced bullies before. They had overcome colonizers and oppressors throughout their history. Now they faced the same challenge on a galactic scale. Miller picked up his phone and dialed the President's private line. "Madam President, we need to change our approach. The Council isn't here to welcome us. They're here to control us." "What do you suggest?" she asked. Miller smiled grimly. "Let them think they've won. Let them believe we're the simple primitives they think we are. Meanwhile, we prepare. And when the moment is right, we'll show them exactly what humanity can do." The alien ship continued to shine in the night sky, its crew unaware that their carefully laid plans were already beginning to unravel. Humanity had survived and thrived for thousands of years by adapting and overcoming. The Galactic Council was about to learn that humans were anything but primitive. The great hall of the Galactic Council's ship gleamed with artificial light. Hundreds of alien diplomats from across the galaxy had gathered for what they thought would be Earth's formal acceptance of their terms. The council leader stood tall, his silver robes shimmering as he prepared to announce humanity's integration into their carefully controlled system. Ambassador Miller walked into the hall, his steps measured and confident. The aliens had never seen him wear anything but Earth's simple diplomatic suits. Today, he wore ceremonial military dress, complete with medals from Earth's past conflicts. The sight made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. "Honorable Council," Miller began, his voice carrying through the vast chamber. "For 6 months, we have listened to your proposals. We have reviewed your terms. We have considered your offers of protection and guidance." The council leader smiled, already reaching for the treaty documents. Miller's next words froze him in place. "Earth respectfully declines." The chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens of various species jumped to their feet, their translator devices struggling to keep up with their overlapping shouts of disbelief and outrage. "This is unprecedented," the council leader bellowed. "You cannot simply walk away." Miller's smile was cold. "Actually, we can, and we will." He pressed a button on his wrist device. Above the chamber, a massive hologram appeared, showing thousands of Earth ships decloaking in orbit, ships that the Council's sensors had never detected. "Impossible," whispered one of the senior council members. "Their technology is primitive." "Is it?" Miller asked. "Or did we simply let you believe what you wanted to believe?" He walked forward, each step echoing in the now silent chamber. "While you were busy planning how to exploit our world, we were studying you, learning your weaknesses, preparing for this moment." The council leader's composure cracked. "If you reject our protection, you will be isolated. No trade, no technology, no support." Miller laughed, and the sound made several aliens step back. "You still don't understand. We don't need your protection. We don't want your controlled trade routes. And your technology." He gestured to the ships above. "We've already surpassed much of it." From his briefcase, Miller pulled out a device the size of his palm. With a casual toss, he sent it spinning into the air where it hung, projecting detailed schematics of technology far beyond what the Council had offered Earth. "This is what we've developed on our own," Miller said. "While you thought we were struggling with basic spaceflight, we were building things you haven't even imagined." The council leader's face had turned ashen. "The other protected worlds will never deal with you. You'll be alone in the galaxy." Miller's expression turned serious. "Will we? Or will they finally see that your protection is just another word for control?" He turned to address the entire chamber. "Earth is withdrawing from these talks. We are declaring ourselves a free and independent stellar nation. Any species that wishes to trade or negotiate with us directly is welcome to do so." Several of the younger species representatives perked up at this, their interest obvious despite the council's glares. "You can't do this," the council leader shouted. "There will be consequences." "There always are," Miller agreed. "But humanity has faced worse odds before. We fought our way up from stone tools to starships. We've survived everything our world and our own nature could throw at us. Do you really think your threats scare us?" As if on cue, Earth's ships began powering up their drives, their energy signatures dwarfing anything the Council had seen before. "This meeting is over," Miller declared. "Earth's representatives will be leaving now. Any species wishing to establish direct diplomatic relations can contact us through normal channels." He turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a stunned silence. As he reached the door, he paused and looked back one last time. "Oh, and one more thing. Those resource extraction operations you were planning, I'd recommend against them. We're rather protective of our home." The door closed behind him with a final, decisive click. In orbit, Earth's fleet stood ready, a clear message to anyone who might mistake humanity's diplomatic withdrawal for weakness. The galaxy would never be the same. Miller sat in the dimly lit underground facility, surrounded by screens showing intercepted alien communications. The Council thought their encryption was unbreakable. They were wrong. Earth's quantum computers had cracked it within days. "Play it again," Miller ordered, leaning forward in his chair. The holographic display flickered to life, showing 2 council members in their private quarters. "These humans are more resourceful than expected," the first alien said, its silver skin reflecting the ship's lights. "But they remain centuries behind us. Their planet is rich in rare elements," the second replied. "Once the treaties are signed, we can begin extraction. They'll never realize the true value of what they're giving away." Miller's fists clenched. The Council's protective regulations were starting to make sense. Their rules against advanced mining technology would force Earth to rely on Council equipment. Their trade restrictions would let them set prices for Earth's resources. In another part of the facility, Admiral Reed was reviewing military data. The Council claimed their ship was a diplomatic vessel, but Earth's sensors told a different story. Hidden weapon systems, shield generators far more powerful than needed for defense, and enough troops to occupy a small continent. "They're not diplomats," Reed told his staff. "They're advanced scouts for an invasion force." The evidence kept mounting. Council members accidentally mentioning other protected worlds that had been stripped of resources, whispered conversations about Earth's strategic location for their military expansion, plans to prevent humans from developing their own FTL travel technology. But the Council's biggest mistake was underestimating human ingenuity. While they focused on obvious technology, they missed the subtle advances. They didn't notice the quantum computers hidden in ordinary-looking laptops. They overlooked the advanced materials disguised as common metals. They never suspected that humans had already developed their own primitive FTL drive. Miller received reports from around the world. China had reverse-engineered parts of the Council's communication system. Russia had developed countermeasures against their weapons. The European Union had created new defense shields. Each nation worked separately but shared information through secure channels. "Look at this," a young analyst said, pointing to a data stream. "They're talking about something called the Standard Protocol. It's happened before." The team dug deeper. The protocol was the Council's standard method for absorbing new worlds. First, appear peaceful. Then, impose restrictions. Finally, slowly drain the planet's resources while keeping its people dependent and weak. They found references to other worlds that had resisted, planets that had tried to break free from Council control. All had failed. All had been crushed by overwhelming force. But Earth was different. Humans had spent their entire history fighting, adapting, and surviving. They had split the atom, reached their moon, and created artificial intelligence, all while the Council thought they were still figuring out basic electronics. Miller walked into the president's secure bunker with a thick folder of evidence. The world's leaders watched through encrypted video links as he laid out the Council's true plans. "They think they're dealing with children," he said. "They expect us to be grateful for their table scraps while they rob us blind." The Chinese premier spoke first. "Our ancestors faced similar colonial powers. They learned their lesson. Russia will not bow to these aliens," the Russian president declared. "We have prepared." One by one, Earth's leaders agreed. They would play along with the Council's game, but only until they were ready. They would sign the treaties, accept the restrictions, and pretend to be the primitive species the Council expected. But in secret, humanity would prepare for war. Miller looked at the alien ship through the bunker's periscope. The Council thought they were the masters of deception, but humans had perfected the art of appearing weak while gathering strength. It was a lesson as old as warfare itself. "Let them think they've won," he said quietly. "Their arrogance will be their downfall." In their ship high above, the Council members continued their planning, never suspecting that their victims were quietly becoming their worst nightmare. The Council's central monitoring station was in chaos. Red warning lights flashed across screens as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Just 3 weeks after Earth's dramatic exit, the carefully maintained order was crumbling. "Another trade route has collapsed," an operator announced. "The Centauri Belt merchants are refusing to pay Council tariffs. The council leader paced nervously, his silver robes now wrinkled from days without rest. On the main screen, a map of the galaxy showed dozens of red spots where their control was failing. How? He demanded. How did humans cause this much damage so quickly? The answer came from an unexpected source. A young analyst rushed in, clutching data files. Sir, it's not just what they did. It's what they revealed. The files showed the truth. Earth's public display of advanced technology had shattered the Council's image of superiority. Protected worlds that had been dependent on Council technology were discovering they had been kept artificially weak. Meanwhile, on a dozen worlds, local governments were conducting their own investigations. They found hidden reserves of resources the Council had claimed were scarce. They discovered their own scientists had been close to breakthroughs before Council regulations stopped them. Trade Station 7 has gone dark, another operator reported. They're refusing to process Council credits. The economic system, carefully built over centuries, was unraveling. Without the Council's controlled trade routes, new partnerships were forming. Independent merchants were discovering they could trade directly between worlds, often at better prices. In the Council's secure archives, an emergency meeting was underway. The oldest members, species that had ruled the galaxy for generations, faced an uncomfortable truth. Our technology isn't as advanced as we claimed, one admitted. We've been recycling the same innovations for centuries, making only minor improvements. Because it was easier to control others than to keep advancing, another added bitterly. Reports kept coming in. 3 more protected worlds had declared independence. The Rigel system was establishing direct diplomatic relations with Earth. The Antarian League was reviewing all its Council treaties. In orbit around Earth, Miller watched the chaos unfold from humanity's new space station. Beside him, Admiral Reed studied tactical displays showing movement across the galaxy. They're mobilizing their fleet, Reed noted, trying to maintain control through force. Miller nodded, but their ships are spread too thin. They never needed a large fleet before. Fear and dependency kept everyone in line. A communication alert flashed. Representatives from 15 different species requested emergency meetings with Earth's diplomatic corps. All of them were from worlds previously under Council protection. They're not just losing control, Miller observed. They're losing their foundation. Every species that breaks free weakens them further. On the Council's capital world, the crisis deepened. Their carefully managed economy had always depended on controlling trade between worlds. As independent trade routes multiplied, their currency was losing value. We could strike at Earth, a military commander suggested. Make an example of them. The Council leader shook his head. Their technology is beyond ours now. And worse, they've shown others how to break free. Even if we could defeat Earth, we'd face rebellion across the galaxy. In secret bunkers and hidden laboratories across dozen worlds, scientists began dusting off old research. Projects that had been banned by Council decree were reopened. Ideas that had been suppressed were re-examined. The Council had claimed these restrictions were for safety. Now, worlds were discovering that most of these technologies were not dangerous, just threatening to Council control. Another protected world has gone silent, an operator reported wearily. They're not even bothering to formally withdraw anymore. They're just ignoring us. The Council leader stared at the galaxy map, watching as more and more systems turned red. Their perfect system, maintained for over 1,000 years, was collapsing, and it had taken humanity less than a month to trigger it. How could we have misjudged them so badly? He whispered. But he already knew the answer. They had been so focused on controlling others that they had forgotten how to grow themselves. And now, the galaxy was changing faster than they could handle. The crisis was only beginning. Earth's new galactic embassy was unlike anything the visiting alien diplomats had ever seen. Instead of the cold, sterile halls favored by the Council, humans had created a space that blended advanced technology with natural beauty. Gardens with trees from Earth grew under force fields, while quantum computers hummed quietly in open-air offices. Miller stood at the main conference table, surrounded by representatives from 20 former Council-controlled worlds. The atmosphere crackled with excitement and nervous energy. Earth offers a different path, Miller explained, activating a holographic display. We don't want to control you. We want to trade with you, learn from you, and grow together. A tall, blue-skinned diplomat leaned forward. But how can we trust you won't become like the Council? Miller touched a control, and the room's walls became transparent, showing Earth's cities below. Look at our world. We have hundreds of nations, thousands of cultures. We argue, we compete, we sometimes fight, but we've learned that diversity makes us stronger. The display shifted to show Earth's new trade network. Unlike the Council's rigid, controlled routes, this system was organic and flexible. Worlds could trade directly with each other, choosing their own paths and partnerships. More importantly, Miller continued, we'll share our technology openly. No more artificial restrictions. The room buzzed with excitement. On a nearby screen, humans were already teaching scientists from other worlds how to build their own quantum computers. In another section of the embassy, engineers shared plans for advanced propulsion systems. But the Council says unrestricted technology is dangerous, one representative objected. Admiral Reed, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. The only danger was to their control. Look at your own history. How many innovations did your people almost discover before Council regulations stopped you? The truth of his words hit home. Several diplomats began sharing stories of promising research suddenly shut down by Council directives. Of brilliant scientists whose work was buried under regulations. We've opened our universities to your students, Miller added, and we hope your worlds will do the same. Imagine what we could all achieve by learning from each other. In orbit, a fleet of merchant ships from a dozen worlds was already gathering. Without Council tariffs and restrictions, trade was booming. Goods and ideas flowed freely for the first time in centuries. A small reptilian diplomat raised a scaled hand. But what about defense? The Council's fleet is obsolete, Reed interrupted, bringing up tactical displays. Earth's defense technology is available to any world that joins our free trade alliance. We'll help you protect yourselves. The meeting continued for hours as more details were worked out. Earth wasn't imposing rules. They were offering choices. Each world could decide how much or how little they wanted to participate. In a quiet corner, Miller watched as alien diplomats excitedly discussed possibilities with human scientists. Medical technology from one world combined with Earth's computer systems could revolutionize healthcare. Agricultural techniques from another could help feed billions. They're like children discovering their parents' rules were lies, Reed observed, joining Miller. Miller shook his head. Not children, equals who were held back. Look how quickly they're adapting. He was right. Already, joint research projects were producing innovations the Council had claimed were impossible. Free trade was creating prosperity the Council had said couldn't exist without their control. Sir, an aide interrupted, bringing a data pad. 3 more worlds are requesting membership in the Alliance, and the Arcturus sector is reporting Council ships are withdrawing from their space. Miller smiled. The Council was losing its grip not through force, but through choice. Every world that joined the Alliance weakened their power further. Humanity's greatest strength, he mused, was never our technology. It was our ability to cooperate without demanding control. Outside the embassy, ships from across the galaxy continued to arrive. Each carried people eager to trade, to learn, to grow. Earth had offered the galaxy a choice between control and freedom. The galaxy was choosing freedom. The Council's Grand Chamber, once a symbol of absolute power, now stood half-empty. Emergency alarms blared constantly as reports of more defections poured in. The remaining Council members watched in horror as their 1,000-year order crumbled around them. The Proxima sector has fallen into open rebellion, an aide reported, his voice shaking. They're dismantling our control stations. On the massive display screen, red warning indicators spread like a virus across the galaxy map. Trade routes that had operated under Council control for centuries were now blazing with unrestricted commerce. Worlds that had been carefully kept isolated were now communicating freely. The Council leader slumped in his throne-like chair. How many systems have we lost? 60% have formally withdrawn. Another 20% are ignoring our directives. The remaining worlds. The aide hesitated. They're demanding reforms we cannot provide. Meanwhile, in Earth's Strategic Command Center, Miller and Reed watched the collapse unfold. Holographic displays showed the movement of ships and resources across the galaxy. Former Council enforcement vessels were being abandoned or repurposed for free trade. They're losing control faster than we anticipated, Reed noted, studying the tactical data. Some of their own enforcement fleet is deserting. Miller nodded grimly. Their power was always built on illusions. Once those shattered. The displays showed new conflicts erupting across former Council space. Some worlds, angry at centuries of exploitation, were settling old scores. Others were racing to claim resources the Council had previously controlled. "Sir," an operator called out, "we're detecting weapons fire in the Centauri sector. 2 former Council worlds are engaging in direct combat." This was the dangerous part. The Council's iron grip had suppressed countless ancient rivalries and territorial disputes. Now those conflicts were exploding into the open. Earth's response was swift. Miller activated the emergency broadcast system they had established with their allies. "This is Earth Command to all Alliance members. We are dispatching peacekeeping forces to the Centauri sector. Any world wishing to join the response team, coordinate with Earth Fleet Command." Within hours, ships from 20 different worlds converged on the conflict zone. This wasn't the Council's suppression through force. It was a cooperative effort to maintain peace. Back in the Council chamber, the remaining leaders watched helplessly as their military advantage evaporated. Their fleet, once the most powerful in the galaxy, was now outmatched by the combined forces of their former subjects. "We could still strike at Earth," one hardliner suggested desperately. "Show everyone the price of defiance." The Council leader laughed bitterly. "With what? Half our fleet has deserted. Our best commanders have joined the Alliance. We couldn't even reach Earth's defense perimeter." Reports continued to flood in. The Council's secret technology vaults had been breached, revealing centuries of suppressed innovations. Their hidden resource stockpiles were being discovered and seized by local governments. Their network of informants and enforcers was collapsing. In Earth's diplomatic center, Miller met with representatives from newly freed worlds. The challenges were enormous, but so was the opportunity. "We need to establish new frameworks," a delegate argued. "Without the Council's control, there's nothing stopping total anarchy." Miller activated a hologram showing the expanding network of alliances and treaties forming between free worlds. "Look at what's already happening. Worlds are choosing to cooperate because it benefits everyone. Real partnerships, not forced submission." The galaxy was restructuring itself. New trade routes, new alliances, new possibilities emerged daily. Some worlds chose isolation. Others embraced total openness. Each made their own choices. "Another Council enforcement station has gone dark," Reed reported. "Their command structure is falling apart completely." Miller studied the tactical displays, watching as the old order crumbled and a new one took shape. The process was chaotic, sometimes violent, but ultimately unstoppable. "The galaxy needed this," he said quietly. The Council's order was like a dam holding back progress. Now the dam has broken. The chaos would continue, but from it, something new and better would emerge. Humanity had not just freed itself, it had freed the galaxy. And there was no going back. 1 year after Earth's dramatic withdrawal from the Council talks, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. The Grand Hall of Earth's Galactic Coordination Center buzzed with activity as representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered for the first assembly of free worlds. Miller stood at the podium, looking out over the diverse gathering. Species that the Council had kept separate for centuries now sat together, sharing ideas and building alliances. The old rigid hierarchy was gone, replaced by a network of equal partners. 1 year ago, Miller began, his voice carrying across the hall. We chose freedom over control. Today, we meet not as rulers and subjects, but as equals. The massive screens behind him showed real-time data from across the galaxy. Trade volume had tripled since the Council's collapse. Scientific advancement had accelerated at an unprecedented rate. Worlds that had been resource-poor under Council restrictions were now prospering through free trade. The Council said we needed their control to prevent chaos. A delegate from a former protected world stood up. But look at what we've achieved without them. The displays shifted to show the new galactic map. The Council's territory had shrunk to a handful of core worlds. Their once mighty fleet now patrolled only their home systems. Their influence diminished to nearly nothing. Admiral Reed presented the security briefing. The last major conflict was resolved 3 months ago. Our combined peacekeeping forces have proven more effective than centuries of Council suppression. The secret of their success was simple: collaboration instead of control. When worlds had disputes, they came to Earth not as a superior power, but as a mediator. Earth's diplomatic corps had earned respect not through force, but through fairness. We've confirmed the Council's final withdrawal from the Outer Rim, an aide reported. Their last enforcement stations are being dismantled. The news brought no cheers. They were past celebrating the Council's defeat. Instead, delegates immediately began discussing plans for the abandoned sectors. Some worlds proposed joint scientific missions. Others suggested new trade routes. Miller watched with pride as former enemies worked together to solve common problems. The Council had claimed that without their control, the galaxy would descend into warfare. Instead, free worlds had discovered that cooperation brought greater benefits than conflict. The latest technological exchange program has exceeded all expectations, a science delegate announced. Combining knowledge from multiple worlds has solved problems we've struggled with for centuries. The screens showed some of these achievements: clean energy systems that could power entire planets, medical treatments that could cure previously incurable diseases, faster-than-light drives that made travel between systems easier than ever. But our greatest achievement, Miller said, drawing attention back to the podium, isn't technological. It's proving that freedom and cooperation work better than control and fear. The Assembly turned to its main task: formalizing the new galactic structure. Unlike the Council's rigid hierarchy, this would be a flexible network of alliances. Worlds could choose their level of participation. Some opted for full integration, others for limited partnerships. Earth doesn't seek to replace the Council, Miller assured them. We're just one voice among many. Our role is to help coordinate, not control. As if to emphasize his point, the day's final vote was handled by representatives from other worlds. Earth sat as an equal partner, not a dominant power. In orbit above Earth, ships from across the galaxy moved peacefully through space. Trade vessels mixed with scientific expeditions. Cultural exchange missions brought diverse species together. The Council's last attempted prediction of doom had failed to materialize. They had warned that without their control, advanced technology would lead to destruction. Instead, free worlds had proven more responsible with power than the Council had ever been. The final vote is recorded, the Assembly Secretary announced. The Charter of Free Worlds has been ratified. Miller looked out at the gathered delegates. Former enemies now allies. Former subjects now equals. The galaxy had changed more in 1 year than in the previous 1,000. This isn't the end, he told them. It's just the beginning. Together, we'll build something better than the Council ever imagined possible. The Assembly erupted in applause, not just for Earth, but for themselves. They had proven that freedom was stronger than control, that cooperation was more powerful than domination. The galaxy had entered a new age, and its future was brighter than ever.